Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines 2, and welcome to a first look at the Urban Promenades content creator pack coming to City Skylines 2 on December 2nd, 2024, with 5 new service buildings and a new Urban Promenades medium density mixed zoning type. I think I nailed that. I think that covered about everything. You know what? Let's get to it. Let's look at everything new in Urban Promenades. So, since Urban Promenades comes with a whole bunch of new zonable assets, I figured that would probably be the best place to start. And I don't really feel like breaking these down individually because we would be here for a very long time, and I don't think anybody wants a 2-hour video looking at individual buildings. So I've broken this down in a way that I think makes sense. From left to right, we have different building sizes, so 2x2 all the way to 4x6, and from front to back we have levels 1, 3, and 5 because levels 2 and 4 don't change the appearance of the building. A level 2 building looks like a level 1 building, and a level 4 building looks like a level 3 building. So hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully this breakdown gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. Let's turn off the HUD and just zoom in a little bit to look at these guys. And this is very, very similar, at least to me, and I appreciate it. I mean, it's in a good way. This all looks very similar to the, what was it, the Plazas and Promenades, or the Promenades and Plazas, or the Parks and Plazas, whatever DLC it was for Cities Skylines 1. And I appreciate that a lot. I love myself some wall-to-wall buildings. Getting those in City Skylines 2 from the jump was huge, and just having more options for more modern city center looking spaces, which in fairness, I think Modern City Center was another DLC for City Skylines 1, but I love this. I love this style of building. I love the grass on the roof. I love the little rooftop gardens that are going on there. I would have liked to see maybe a little bit of foliage up there, but that's something we can probably play around with. I know there's some mods, or at least I think Anarchy, it might not be Anarchy, but it might be Anarchy, lets you go ahead and snap props to different buildings. So we could, if we wanted to, go and put some trees and bushes on the tops of all of these buildings, but they're beautifully detailed. And I think I may have forgot to mention that they're all mixed use. So those lower floors are all going to be little commercial buildings, and then upstairs you've got a bunch of apartments. Some of them have balconies, which is great. A lot of these places have space for kids to climb and go on the swings and go down slides and play in a communal sandbox, which just seems gross. If anyone has a cat, that's gonna be not sure about that one. I'll be honest. I mean, that's not a criticism of the building or the asset itself. That's just more real life. Up here, plenty of detail as well. Plenty of space for people to sit around and lounge and enjoy their balconies. Honestly, there's a lot going on the balconies of this particular asset. Same with these guys over here. A little bit less on some of the balconies, but again, up here you have this beautiful, there's a word for it. We'll call it a balcony, a big balcony. There you go. That's the word we're going to choose for that particular platform. But again, you have all this space where people just sit and enjoy. We've even got little, that's not a washing line, that's an antenna. I was going to say it's a washing line. It absolutely is not. It's not a washing line. Do not hang your washing from a TV antenna. That's going to be a really bad time. You know, from a distance looking at these buildings, my heart sank for just a moment because those little blue things you can see on the tops of the balconies, for some reason, and I realized what the reason is, my mind went, why is there a trampoline up here? It's not a trampoline. It is in fact a hot tub, which makes a lot more sense. That's actually a funny story about that. At the City Skylines 2 Creator Connect in Finland in October 2024, I can't remember who it was, but we were all at this rooftop bar, and there was like a net thing covering some rooftop jacuzzis, hot tubs, whatever you want to call them. And someone genuinely did go, oh cool, they've got a trampoline. And it was right at the edge of a building. It was sort of like an infinity pool, but a hot tub with like a net covering it so you couldn't get into it. And someone genuinely looked at that. I'm not trying to make fun of that. It was really funny at the time. And they just, oh, a trampoline at the edge of the building. It was It was, yeah, you had to be there. All right, you had to be there. Anyway, these buildings have some hot tubs. These guys, unfortunately, don't have hot tubs, but plenty of space on all of them for people to just sit around and enjoy their surroundings. A little bit less on these guys, but they are admittedly smaller buildings, these being the 3x3s, which don't seem to have any kind of central building. It is worth pointing out that these guys are all broken down into 3 buildings across. These are the same buildings. I just wanted to surround them so you can see the backs of them. And then same story down here. We have a central building, but no central 3x3 building, which a little bit odd, but not the end of the world. I do like that this one makes for a very interesting just cube, just a big square block. Very much a fan of that. I like that this one kind of has some curves going on as well. Very much a fan of that. We talked about that with the Modern City Hospital in the modern, modern whatever pack. I've already forgot the name of it. That video would have just went out at the same time as this one, and I've already forgot the title of the other expansion. We talked about it in the other expansion that came out at the same time as this one. So as well as all of these zonable assets that are available in Urban Promenades, there are 5 service buildings available as well. We're going to be starting in the healthcare category and working across once again. We are starting with the Urban Medical Center. It is a medium-sized healthcare facility that has a patient capacity of 530 ambulances. It is $1.2 million and looks a little something like that, which is particularly interesting given that, again, plenty of space on the roof for people to sit and enjoy the sights and sounds of the Urban Medical Center, which I suppose is fine. We're still continuing that grass through onto the roof of the building, and it, I am assuming, is going to be a little bit expandable with an ambulance depot. That's very, very cool looking. Very unique looking as well. Really, really big fan of that. It's a cool way of doing a garage. It also has specialized clinics that go on top. I like that a lot. Very, very strange looking building, very unique looking building, and very exciting looking building. I think that'll look great in Urban Promenade downtown areas. Now, moving into the education category, we have 2 buildings to talk about. The first is going to be the Urban Elementary School. It is $125,000, student capacity of 1,200. It looks a little something like this. It is a little bit more subtle and a little bit more humble than some of the other buildings that we've looked at so far. I do really, really like this look though. I love the overhang. I can't remember the exact term for it. I've watched a lot of grand designs. I should know this, but unfortunately I don't. I think it looks really, really cool though. Very big fan of this building. And again, a little bit more understated, a little bit more humble than what we've looked at before. In terms of expansions, it does have an urban playground that can go on top, and it has an extension wing that looks to go at the back. So looking at those way up high, that's very, very cool. I like that a lot. It's a really cool way of doing a playground for a building like this. And then the expansion at the back gives you some space to sit outside, relax, chill, get your lunch, play around a little bit. All in all, probably one of the most unique, while still being kind of subtle, but still probably one of the most unique buildings, weirdly, in Cities Skylines 2. I appreciate it. And so that brings us to the Urban High School, which is $300,000, student capacity of 800. It is, again, a relatively humble-ish looking building, bright pink. So not that humble, but still, it doesn't have the grass on top in the way that the other ones did. A beautiful amount of detail though. I love these little basketball courts, and that's not using the standard basketball court texture that's in Cities Skylines 2. That's something a little bit more simple, a little bit more, again, humble. And I think given that this is more of an urban building, or at least it's more urban oriented, I mean, land and it's going to be at a premium, you know, you're not going to have all that much space for a whole bunch of expansions. So having teeny tiny little basketball courts absolutely makes sense for a building like this. We also have some upgrades available. So we have a gym extension that goes right on top there, which is very, very cool. And we have an extension wing that goes at the front as well, turning this into something a little bit more similar to the rest of the expansion. I love this open sort of courtyard between the 2 expansions as well. And I also love that these expansions don't get rid of anything in the general footprint of the building. All in all, this is a really, really cool urban high school. I like this thing a lot. Which brings us to the second to last asset that we're going to be looking at today, which is the urban fire station. $1.15 million, 20 fire engines, and a relatively small building. Again, quite subtle, quite understated compared to a lot of the things in this pack, but still a great amount of detail going on here. Still a little bit of space up here for people to sit and relax, which I really appreciate. Got some proper loungers there. Also the barbecue. Really big fan of the barbecue. I love, again, I mentioned it with some of the other fire stations. I love the storytelling there. I love the consideration for the fact that the firefighters, you know, they might be spending 24, 48 hours in a station. So that's accounted for. That's really, really cool. This thing has 2 expansions available, a disaster response unit, which goes on top, and it has a training tower that goes out back, a little something like that. Makes it a little bit more unique looking for sure. Definitely a little bit more unique looking with that sort of angular expansion on the top, but still a lot more subtle than some of the things we're dealing with in this pack. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. I really, really like this. And I don't think it's going to look horribly out of place anywhere in your cities. It's going to look like a bit of a modern urban fire station, but it's not going to look out of place in, for example, a French district or a German district or a UK district or whatever other region packs we might be looking at. This thing will look at home just about anywhere. And that brings us to the last asset that we're going to be looking at, which is another one of my favorites. This is going to be the Urban Police Headquarters. It has a jail capacity of 110 patrol cars and it's $2.1 million. It is one of the larger buildings in this pack, and it is very, very cool. It's a very, very interesting looking building. Again, a lot of consideration for people sitting on the balconies and things like that. A lot of space in the ground for parking as well at all sorts of different angles, which I love and adore. Some accessible parking down here as well, which is beautiful to see. And it's got this really cool sort of angular, almost webbing thing going on over the front of the building, which is really interesting. I like that a lot. I don't really know how to describe it. It's not something I would necessarily, I'm not going to be putting it on my house. I'll put it that way. Although my house was built at like the late 80s, so that really wouldn't work anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting looking building. Definitely a bit more on the unique side when compared to most of what we looked at so far. And of course, it has some expansions. It has a garage extension, which goes here at the back. That's going to give us another 25 patrol cars. That's quite a bit. That gives us up to 35 vehicles in this station. It also has a helipad that goes on top like this. So that's 36 vehicles in total. And that is, well, that's that. That is all of the new buildings in the Urban Promenades Content Creator Pack. And so that brings us back to the city of Townsville. Now, I mentioned specifically that new fire station wouldn't look horribly out of place in a French district. And so what I'm going to do is get rid of my old historical French fire station. I'm probably going to have to get rid of the buildings next to it as well. And I want to put the urban fire station in here because I think it's going to look a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to place it right about there. It wraps around this corner in a really cool way. It has some detailing going on with the trees as well, which is fantastic. And then next to this guy, well, we could do some parking, but I'm probably going to do a couple more little French buildings. In fact, I'm wondering if I could be so bold as to grab this one and do something like this. So we have a building that kind of wraps around here. It is looking to the fire station, which is fine, but we can play around with some surfaces here. We can have some fun with this. I don't think I have anywhere that people can walk back here, so we're not going to worry too much about that. But we're going to hit this with some expansions, of course. We'll give it the disaster response unit right here. We'll give it the training tower just to make it look a little bit more interesting and a little bit more unique right there. And then what we'll do is just bring ourselves a little surface back here. Not too sure what surface I'm going to go for. Maybe something like this clay. Yeah, I think the clay paver is probably going to be the way to go on this thing. And then I think across the back, we're just going to do a little wall right there, just something kind of subtle. And maybe in front of these buildings or between these buildings, we could also do just a few little park props in here, or a couple of little commercial props might be the better bet. So we'll do, I think tables and chairs are going to be the way to go on this. I think that might be a little bit much. So we'll stick with the little, you know what? We'll go with these guys. these little 2-seater tables and chairs, we'll do them here. We'll go here. We'll go maybe right about there. And that seems fine by me. We do have a couple of things down here we could play with, but I don't know that I'm too interested in putting those in there. We do have some potted plants. We do have some park assets as well. Do I want a little fountain in here? Is that a little bit much? It might be. This is definitely a little bit much. This one, I think we can make this work. I think this little fountain could maybe just sit right about there. And I think that looks okay. I would like to go in with just a few little potted plants as well, just for a little bit of variation in terms of color and things like that, although we're getting nothing but gray plants in here. It is winter, actually. It doesn't look like winter, but it is winter, so that's probably why all of these plants are quite as gray looking as they are right now, which is totally fine. We'll get a couple of these guys. Maybe a planter like this could sit just back here in front of these buildings. That might be a little bit much, but I think we can make that work as well. We'll just go for right about there. And if it wasn't winter, these would look great. They would be bright and colorful and exciting, but because it is winter, they're not. That's fine. That's just how cities works. That's just Cities 2 for you. It's a little bit less colorful than the first one. It's fine. It's a fact. The game is a little bit less colorful than the first one. That's something I've been saying for ages. The first one was bright and kind of cartoony. This one's a little bit more gray, and that's all right. It's a slightly different style. The simulation's a little bit deeper. It's a bit more realistic in certain aspects. It's not a criticism. It's not. This video's not about criticizing the game despite appearances. Anyway, like I said, I think this thing fits in here in a really cool way. Like I said, it just looks like a modern development, and it is. It's just an urban fire station that's a bit different to what's in the district before. It also looks like you can totally recolor it. So can I? Oh, that's dangerous. Hold on. Can I get this thing to be like a nice? Oh, I totally can. So can I get this to be like a nice sort of sandstone color? So we'll go for about there. We'll desaturate it for the most part. That's pretty cool. I like that you can do that. I really like that you can do that. I'm assuming this is, yeah, that's the blue down there. Would that look better in red? Like a nice sort of strong, dark red on the front of the building. It definitely makes it feel like more of a fire station, which I'm kind of here for. I like that a lot. And then I don't know what this color is. Oh, that's the accents in there. Interesting. Okay. Do I want those to be brighter? I think I do. They look blue because there's a shadow on them, but I'm kind of all right with that. Oh man, I like that a lot. I really like that a lot. It's very cool. I don't think I can change the rest of the assets, unfortunately, or no, I think I'm going to be stuck with that color scheme for the expansions of the building, unfortunately, but you know what? That's fine. It's still a really cool looking building. Now, I do want to move away from my French district just a little bit. I want to start looking at the space I have here with my park and my city hall and my citizen service center. This was all placed in my overview of the other expansion that came out, the modern one, which for some reason I cannot for the life of me remember the name of. I realized though I could just check. We have filters available. It's this one, modern architecture. It's too early. I'm recording this very early in the day. The word architecture is just a little bit, it's a little bit more than I'm willing to try and say right now. So just bear with me. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to come in here and I would like to just experiment a little bit here and there with a few of these zonable buildings. Now I could, if I wanted to, I could go in here and I could just zone this entire thing. And that is something you can do. But I'm trying to get sort of a specific look for this big old promenade that we have going on here. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to place a bunch of these buildings by hand just to see what we can do with it. And I'm thinking actually anything on this main road is going to be, we're going to go in at level 5 so we can get the biggest version of these buildings that we possibly can. So I do want those 4x6 buildings, and I want those to be kind of right in the middle here. So they are kind of lined up with these pedestrian roads that we have going, we'll say north to south in this particular instance. I do want to get some little 2x2 buildings, and I want the middle ones to go back here. Now, unfortunately, they do have balconies on the back, and that does mean they are going to be looking pretty much straight at this guy, which is a little unfortunate, but we'll deal with that. It's not going to be the end of the world. We're just going to line those up down here as well. A little something like this. And then I want to get myself the 4x4 buildings, because that's going to be my corners. So we're going to go for, I suppose, well, here. And we're going to go for over here. We're going to get the left corners and put them here and here. And that is going to give us a little bit more. We're going to be dealing with a fair chunk of symmetry here is what we're going to be doing. I don't know that I'm going to be playing too much with, well, actually, you know what? Is that the middle? Yeah, that is the middle. Let's go down to level 3 for the next set of corners. So we're getting some slightly different looking buildings in here. Oh, and while we're doing this, I totally missed a couple of buildings in my general overview. I could obviously go back and redo that entire thing. I'm not going to, because it's just 2 buildings. It's these guys right here, which are 3x2 and 3x4 respectively from left to right. This is the 3x2. This is the 3x4. There are, of course, different levels of these guys as well. This is the level 5 for those guys. This is the level 3 for the 3x2, and this is the 3x4. And then the level 1 of those buildings is this and this. Again, beautiful amount of variety going on here. And these are actually going to be super useful because, as it turns out, my zoning over here, well, it's not exactly all that good. It's not exactly perfect. So I do kind of need these to fit into some of these spaces, which is exactly what I'm going to do with them. Although I might just happen to use, let's see, the little 3x4 there, and maybe go for a, we'll do the same one on the other side. We'll go down a level for the back over here and for over here. And then we need a little 2x2 for these spaces as well. So we get a lot width of 2. And I think we'll go for, let's see. So that's our corner. Do I want level 1 or do I want level 3 for this? I think level 3 is what we'll go for. And then maybe level 5 for the street itself. Is that a little bit much? That might be a little bit much. Let's go for level 3 for the street here as well, so it's not perfectly symmetrical. I think that's probably fair enough. And then we'll go for level 1 for just back here, so it's a little bit smaller again, which is all right. Maybe we swap out one of these buildings as well. So we'll go lot width 3. We'll get a little 3x4 here, and we'll go for, that's the same one we just had. We'll go for the level 5 on these guys. So again, a fair bit taller. That's all right. Maybe a little, actually, you know what? I think I do want the smaller one. I'm going to be really, really picky on this layout, but I do think I want the smaller one. And then I think you are going to have to be the smaller one as well. So I think it's fair to say that the Urban Promenades pack does exactly what it says on the tin. You can absolutely build an urban promenade. And I got a little bit carried away with what I've done here. This was a lot more building than I necessarily intended to do today. So I'm not 100% sure what of this you will have seen me build in a time lapse and what has just popped up with that cut in the video. But I love how this has turned out. I love what I can do with this pack. And I love that it just clearly defines itself as its own style and district, both with the heights of the buildings and the grass on the rooftops. It just works so well, especially with the stuff that's in modern architecture. The city hall, for example, that is with modern architecture. I did change some of the surfaces, but I absolutely love how it looks. The citizen service building as well, absolutely fantastic, basically a welfare office. And then this park plaza down here, I don't know, the whole thing comes together in a really, really cool way. And I'm excited to see cars and buses and things like that move around this space. We've also got some healthcare in here. We have some policing in here. All in all, it's just really come together. It includes education as well. We have a little high school just in here surrounded by a bunch more buildings. And so I think with all things considered, that is probably going to do us for today. We've had a look at both of the new content creator packs that have come to Cities Skylines 2, that being modern architecture and urban promenades. I'm really, really pleased with both of them. I don't know if I've got a favorite out of the two, although there are some assets in one that I like more than the other, but I think they're both pretty cool expansions for the game. They're definitely going to offer a bit of creativity with what you can do with your districts. And I think it's really cool that in general, that's something we're seeing with Cities Skylines 2. There's, you know, the very distinctly German set of buildings, the very distinctly French set of buildings, the very distinctly North American buildings, the very distinctly urban promenade style. I like that that's a thing that you can do, so you can kind of use that to create districts without creating districts. You can give a district an identity without worrying too much about you just use different buildings. It just, I don't know. There's a thing there. It's really cool. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. I'm struggling. You get the idea. I think if this was all sort of blended together, you would still very much be able to tell what was what. And I like that a lot. So hopefully you do as well. There will be some links in the video description to check out both urban promenades and modern architecture. This is not sponsored, but if I'm showing it off, I might as well give you a link down there below the subscribe button and the like button, so that you can check it out for yourself. But like I said, that is going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.